Hi, my name is Joan Grott, and I pledged in the fall of 1996. I started my time at Purdue in August of 1995, and I joke that I went to grad school because I was having too much fun, what with being a Reamer and whatnot. So I got my bachelor's degree in agricultural economics in 2000 and my master's degree in education in 2003. And I was an active Reamer throughout most of that. I'm originally from Union Mills, Indiana, which is a small farming community in northwest Indiana, just south of LaPorte, about 30 minutes from Lake Michigan. I currently reside in Valparaiso, Indiana. Back in the late 90s, our Reamer Club meetings were on Monday nights in Stewart Center. Sometimes those meetings got pretty long, but they were always, well, sometimes maybe they weren't fun. They were usually fun meetings. It was a great way, being a part of that club, to really learn like parliamentary procedure and how an organization conducts business, because it was the most real club I had ever been in to that point in my life, to learn like proper functions of an organization. But every Monday night we met, we did the whole thing. We sang the songs, we did the cheers, we quizzed the pledges, and then we'd go out to Harry's afterwards. Initiation night, we always call it I night for short. I remember being very nervous. I was a fall pledge, so by that point in the semester it was pretty cool out. I remember getting all bundled up to go out to a farm south of Lafayette, and like I really did not know what was happening or what to expect. In retrospect, it was kind of cheesy that I was so nervous out there. I remember they told us to keep our eyes closed or whatever, and thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna get in trouble if I open my eyes. But who would know if I But I remember standing by a tree in a woods waiting for the rest of the group to find me, because I don't know what others' experiences are, but it was some sort of teamwork exercise where the pledge class had to one by one find the whole class out in a dark woods. And then we get to go by the campfire and celebrate a little.
Nice.
But I was very nervous at the time on I night. My biggest takeaway from initiation night was just, once the process was through and done, I really felt like I was part of something. I mean, as a pledge, I felt like I was part of a great organization, but then just to make it official with I night, we'd have I night on a Saturday night, and we'd be out late and tired and smelling like a campfire, and Sunday morning we would get up and we'd have initiation brunch where we made it all official. We probably got certificates, I think we got pins, but just to celebrate together that next Sunday after initiation night was always something special. It felt like, even as an active member, that was always special, because that was when we would bring new members into the club. And so I always found that whole weekend to be special, and capping it off with that celebration brunch was always a neat experience. One of my proudest moments from my time in the club was becoming a pilot of the Boilermaker Special 5. I was pilot number 16 of Boilermaker Special 5. And at that time, like, I see all the pilots that go through now, and at that time I don't think we were producing as many pilots as they have in more recent years. And I was just very proud, because there weren't many females before me that were drivers of the Boilermaker Special. And I grew up on a farm, and I was like, I'm a farm girl, I'm used to big machinery, I can do this. And actually the Boilermaker Special is what drew me to the club, because that fall they had flyers out in the residence halls that said drive the train, and I'm like, heck yeah, I'm gonna drive the train. And that was the whole reason I pledged the club. So I was quite proud to become a pilot, but also I was proud of the things I was able to do as a pilot, because another of my points of pride of my time at Purdue, I was a manager for Purdue women's basketball during my time here in the late 90s, when they were I have a lot of rings in my jewelry box. Let me just say that. Those were a heyday. For next time you folks are in Mackey, check out the banners that have 1990 something on them. It was a heyday. And I think we're headed back that way with our current coaching staff. But keep in mind, mid-late 90s, everybody didn't have a cell phone. So communication wasn't as easy. But me being a Reamer and a basketball manager, I knew all the right people, and I'd make sure, like after a big game, the Boilermaker Special was waiting for us at the airport, or if we were coming back on a bus to Mackey, I'd make sure the Boilermaker Special was waiting there for us after a big game. So I was pretty proud to be able to combine my two extracurriculars and make those kind of things happen. A few of the major ones I remember was the extra special. BMS 6 was finished and dedicated during my time. And also the rededication and rehab of the Lions Fountain happened during my time in the club in the late 90s. We also worked on an edition of the Traditions book at the time, and we all grabbed up some traditions, released an updated Traditions book during our time in the club. So those are some of the big ones that pop into my mind as accomplishments of the club as a whole. What was my favorite club tradition? That's a hard one for me because I really love history, so I really enjoyed learning all the different traditions. If we're talking about which traditions I quizzed the pledges on, I usually took Mackey Arena since I was a basketball manager and hung out there. I also I think maybe Big Ten Battlefields was one of mine because I'd been all the places. But just in general, I think the coolest tradition of all is just the Boilermaker Special itself, because there's not a whole lot of drivable school mascots out there. And to be a part of that within the Reamer Club, and even more specifically as a pilot, that's pretty awesome tradition stuff right there. How did the club impact my future? As a member of the Reamer Club and thinking back and then thinking forward about the experiences I had in the club that helped me become the person I am today, there's a lot of things. I've worked with youth most of my career, and we preach life skills. And a lot of those life skills or soft skills I was able to develop within the Reamer Club. Just how to conduct a business meeting, how an organization conducts their business. But not only that, as I was thinking through preparing for this interview about the things we did as Boilermaker Special pilots, before cell phones, before GPS, we would get a call to come drive a kid's birthday, and we'd have to I remember people on the phone giving us notes, you're gonna turn left here and then right there. But then we would just go to the computer lab and MapQuest it and print off our directions. But just a lot of life skills were learned in the club, and just interacting with people, those business skills, because as a pilot, when you're driving for private events, you really have to become a professional on the spot and have good, clear communication skills and business skills and so forth. So I think the Reamer Club was just a great training ground for all those important life skills that helped me succeed beyond college. Today, I am still in touch with many Reamers. There is a group of us that ever since college, we tailgate together. And now one of our crew, Lori, she owns an RV that she's made home to all of us. But prior to that, we had a reconverted school bus called the Jolly Roger, that there were 5 of us that were co-owners of the Jolly Roger. But yeah, we've been tailgating together and have had season tickets together all these years. So we may not see each other or talk to each other all year, but those 5-6 Saturdays every fall, we're together, which is awesome. Our posse has been together a long time, from back when we used to really party at those tailgates to now there's kids running around at our tailgates. So yes, I'm most definitely, some of my lifelong friends are friends I made in the Purdue Reamer Club. Myself and Lori Saporsky, who was also a driver of the train at the time, Alan Hoffman was also a driver, Jim Stevens was a club member, and then Kevin McDonald, who is also pilot of the Boilermaker Special 5. We were all Reamer alums, and we were the 5 original owners of the Jolly Roger. Oh my gosh, my favorite club memory. So we were going to bowl games every year. I was involved in getting the Boilermaker Special to San Antonio a few times for Alamo Bowl. Went to a few Sun Bowls in El Paso, and of course the Rose Bowl. Rose Bowl, we had the train transported in a semi-trailer, which it just fit. And when I mean just fit, like I remember either putting it in the trailer or backing it out. We had to have people pushing up on one side of the coal car and down on the other to get the train more parallel with the truck to get it into the truck. Pilots would take turns basically staying on campus over the summer to run the business of the Boilermaker Special. And one summer that I stayed, we got hired for a wedding up in Chicago. It was epic. I was driving the Boilermaker Special with a wedding party, a big wedding party in the back on Lakeshore Drive in Chicago. And it was pretty cool. Like I'd hear horns honking and like I had a bridesmaid holler up at me. She's like, "You just caused an accident." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "No, they were gawking and they hit the car hit the car ahead of them." So yeah, we had the Boilermaker Special, Lakeshore Drive in Chicago, and people were gawking at us and having accidents. So that was pretty epic. And one more memory I have to share. I'm not sure if this is still a tradition, but a favorite memory of mine from my time with the club, the last day of football two-a-day practices, we would pick up the seniors on the Boilermaker Special and return them to the locker room after their last summer two-a-day. So myself and Lori Saporsky, another pilot, we were driving the final football practice that day. So, you know, 2 female pilots and a load of college football players, that was pretty cool. But so this load of jokers gets on the back of the train and they're like, "Do you have to take us straight back to the locker room?" I'm like, "I don't know, like, what do you want to do?" And they're like, "Well, take us to the locker room so we can get our wallets and put our pads down and then take us to Harry's." I'm like, I looked at Lori and Lori looked at me and we're like, all right. So we stopped back at the locker room. They lost their shoulder pads, but they're still just like in their sweaty under things and their football pants. And it was an epic afternoon. There's actually upstairs in Harry's on the west wall upstairs, if you look for a picture of a red pickup truck that's loaded with football players, that was actually that day. We stopped outside Harry's, and the wall along Pierce Street that says Harry's, there was a red pickup parked there. And the manager of Harry's wanted a picture of the team. So the train was on the wrong side of the street to get the Harry's in the background. So all these guys just crawl in the back of this random red pickup and they pull us into the shop with them too. And that picture is now on the wall upstairs at Harry's to remind me of that epic day. So that's definitely a standout memory from my days at Purdue. Another favorite memory of my time in the Purdue Reamer Club and as a pilot of Boilermaker Special 5, I always enjoyed taking the train to commencement, and we would park near the steps of Hovde Hall. And I got bummed out because I'd hear so many graduates that had spent years on this campus and they were so excited to just stand next to the train and get their picture taken. And they had never even been on the train. Like, that was the closest they'd been to the train. And that is the university mascot. That's the mascot that represents every student that passes through here. So I was pretty bummed that there were so many that hadn't had the experience. So we created Free Ride Fridays. I forget what year, but it was right around the turn of the century is when we created Free Ride Fridays so that students had the opportunity to hitch a ride on the train. And it's my understanding that now, 20 some years later, those Free Ride Fridays are still happening. So that's pretty cool.